Namaskaram. Hello and welcome, hardworking individuals. Do you know that similar to the H-1B visa crisis that's there for the Indians in USA today, there was a poll tax in South Africa. Yes, a tax which was demanded by the government there for the Indians to continue living in South Africa. And do you also know that Gandhi did not do his first satyagraha in India, but it was in African soil. Where? And the very famous story when Gandhi was thrown out of the train despite having the first class ticket, but because he was not a white and he did not deserve, according to their rules, to travel in the first class railway. Now, we will also see in this class about the Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms, and along with that, do you know that Gandhi founded the National India Congress, not National India Congress, Natal India Congress in South Africa. So we are going to read about all these things along with the Leo Tolstoy form. So if you are interested in this slides and the PDFs of these classes, you can get it for free if you join our Telegram channel. Very beautiful and picturesque PDFs these are there. And also guys, if you are preparing for UPSC as well as for TGPSC, we are bringing an integrated batch, live batch for you, and the batches are going to start very soon. And right now you can get some very interactive discount on this, so you can call on the numbers given below and get started with your preparation journey. Now we will get started with our journey. So already we have covered a large part of modern history. If you have yet not subscribed and seen those videos, please subscribe and see the playlist for yourself. It's really very important. We are doing it according to the Spectrum book, which is considered to be one of the most important books for the prelims for modern history. So towards the end of the First World War, we will see in the last class we were saying that at the time of the World War, Indians were not asked, Indians were not taken the permissions from, but they were asked to fight for the Britishers. And Indians did support, the Congress also did support, thinking that the Britishers after the war will give them what they wanted. That was the self-rule, the Swaraj that was being asked. But instead of getting more favors from the Britishers, it was something which was an heartbreak for the Indians, and Indians did not get what they wanted. In the post-war, we will see that Indian gave men and money for the Britain's war efforts. Thousands of Indian soldiers died in the war. Almost 13 lakh Indian soldiers participated in the war. But after the war, all the sections of the Indian population suffered hardships, and there were some strict sanctions. We will see that there will be a Black Act also implemented on the Indians. Initial phase will see increase in the prices, boosted industries, and later there was recession plus heavy foreign investment caused losses and closure. Why? Because you see, war always brings up the inflation. Inflation goes up at the time of the war, and there was protection from the foreign imports, government aid. This is what was demanded by the industry, but that was not given to us. And the sections of the workers and the artisans, they faced the unemployment and bore the brunt of the higher prices at that time. If we talk about the peasantry, it also faced the high taxation and poverty, and the peasants who waited to lead the protest. The soldiers, Indian soldiers who returned from the battlefields abroad, shared their war experiences with the rural population. On returning, they were shocked to find India more impoverished and with even fewer liberties than before. The educated urban classes, this section was also facing unemployment and was also burdened with an acute awareness of the racism that was shown by the Britishers at that time. And there were some expectations of the political gains for the cooperation in the war. I have already said you that the Gandhi and other nationalists cooperated with the war effort. Thousands of Indian troops died in the battle, and after the war, Indian expected political gains. But this was a disillusionment. We'll see that wartime promises like democracy and self-determination for the colonies, this was something promised to the Indians, but reality was imperialist power tightened the control, dividing colonies of defeated powers, and the effect of it was collapse of the myth of white superiority, and also the outcome as the resurgence of militant nationalism in Asia and Africa. This is something that we will be seeing. Now, impact of the Russian Revolution was also playing a huge role over there. We'll see that in the Bolsheviks under Lenin, they will overthrow the Tsar, the monarch over there, and there was the formation of the Soviet Union that will be there. And this message of the October Revolution, that's a people unity and determination can overthrow the tyranny, this also had an impact on the Indian at that time. Now we will see about the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms that came in India in 1919. So the British did not wanted the share the power with the Indians, but they adopted a carrot and stick policy. What was this carrot and stick policy? So they will implement this in the Government of India Act 1919, which is also known as the Montagu-Chelmsford Reforms, and which was already announced in 1918, but it was fully coming into the power then. And we will also have the hard measures like the Rowlatt Act, which was also known as the Black Act, where you don't get any opportunity for any petition. So it was said there was no wakil, no appeal, no dalil. You can't have a lawyer, you can't do petition, and without any evidences, you can be thrown inside the jail for 2 years. But nonetheless, let's see the important points of the Government of India Act 1919. So first and foremost, it was the very first time the introduction of the dyarchy. What was this dyarchy? Well, the dyarchy in the provinces dividing executive subjects and the powers between the governor and his executive councils and the ministers responsible. Like you have the state list, you have the union list, and then you have the congress list. In the very same way, this was divided into two. It was a reserve subject and the second was a transfer subject. Reserve subjects like the law and order, finance, land revenue, irrigation, these were managed by the governor and his bureaucracy. Transfer subjects like the education, health, local government, industry, agriculture, excise were managed by ministers from elected legislative members. Now, governor was the executive head and he had the discretionary powers. Please understand what does this mean. Even on the subjects that was under the Indians, if the government wanted to take a decision, the governor can take a decision even on that. Ministers were responsible to the legislature, executive councillors were not. Governor could take over transferred subjects if constitutional machinery failed, and also the Secretary of State for India and Governor General could intervene in reserve subject interference in transferred subject. That was I was saying. And also one more thing, it was the very first time you'll see bicameralism. What is bicameralism? Bi means two. Okay, like we have the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. In the similar way, at that time also they gave this legislative council and the executive council, and the legislature, the provincial council expanded. 70% of the members were elected. Communal and class-based electorates continued, and we will also see women were granted the voting rights, and councils could initiate legislation, but governor's assent was required. Along with this, council could reject the budget, but the governor could restore it. And what you are seeing again and again, that at the end of the day, if governor wanted to do something, he can do it. Now, second point of it was the central government which was not having a responsible government. Okay, why? Because we'll see the Governor General was the chief executive authority. His administration was divided into central and provincial subject. The Viceroy's Executive Council had 8 members, of which 3 were Indians, so they were not in majority. The Governor General retained full control over reserve subject provinces, and he could restore cuts in grants, certify bills rejected by legislature, and issue ordinances. So the power of issuing the ordinance was with the governor at that time. Next, we'll see the legislature of the central government. So these are few of the important numbers that you should know about. The tenure of the Council of State was 5 years, and the Central Legislative Assembly was 3 years. And legislators could ask question, pass, adjournment motion, and vote on the part of the budget, but 75% of the budget remained non-votable at that time. And the Secretary of State for India was to be paid from the British Exchequer. This was something that the Indians were demanding, marking an important administrative change over here. So these are the numbers that are important for you. You should go ahead with them. And now let's talk about Gandhi. Gandhi, as you know, was born on 2nd October. That's the Gandhi Jayanti we celebrate in 1869 in Porbandar. That was in Kathiawar district in Gujarat. His father, Karamchand Gandhi, served as Diwan of the state. Diwan basically means a minister. He studied law in England, but while he was studying law in England, he had never faced any racial discrimination. That's why Gandhi never believed in racial discrimination. We'll see that. And in 1898, traveled to South Africa for a legal case involving his client, Dada Abdullah. And there he will see racial discrimination against Asians and the humiliation they faced. He was once traveling in the train, having a first class ticket but he was thrown out of the train from the Pittsburgh because he was asked that he cannot travel in the first class though he was having the train. That was the apartheid that was there. Apartheid basically means the distinctions on the basis of race or color between the whites and the blacks. So that was there, and also there was discrimination between the Indians and the locals over there. Decided to organize Indian workers to fight for their rights, staying in South Africa until 1914. So as we'll see that in 1898, when he goes, within 1 or 2 years, his case and his work was done. He could have returned, but he chose to stay back over there to fight for the rights of the Indians. Now there was this indentured laborers. Who are the indentured laborers? Indentured laborers are the laborers who were taken from the India or from the other colonies to different part of the world to work for the Britishers in their colonies. Okay, they were taken in a permit. Okay, there was a permit issued that they will be taken for these many years, and these are the conditions they have to work upon, and they were promised some other things also which were never to be fulfilled. Mostly from South India, these were went to the South Africa and worked on sugar plantations over there. There were these merchants also, mainly Mehman Muslims who followed the laborers, and also the ex-indentured laborers settled with families after their contracts ended. So these Indians who supposedly who have gone there, but after even their contract has ended, they have now married there, they now have a family over there, so they chose to stay over there. Now there were some challenges which were faced by the Indians. What were there? Mostly literate with little knowledge of English, so this was something. Then there was this racial discrimination because they were not white. Denied political rights like voting, though they are living there, they are earning there, their family is there, but they are not giving the voting rights. Restricted to prescribed residential areas, often unsanitary and congested, so they were not allowed to live in the posh areas, and in some colonies could not stay outdoors after 9 p.m. or use public footpaths. So this was also a discrimination that was being faced by the Indians there. Okay, we'll see in these pictures, you can see the people's living there. Okay, and then the moderate phase of struggle will start from 1894 to 1906. Here we'll see Gandhi sent petitions and memorials to the authorities in South Africa and Britain, hoping that the plight of Indians would be addressed as they were British subjects. To unite the Indian community, he established the Natal India Congress. This is something that you should note down. And he also launched a newspaper known as Indian Opinion. So both of these happened in South Africa. This is something that you should note down. Now the phase of passive resistance or satyagraha that started from 1906 to 1914. So satyagraha against registration certificate. What was registration certificate? So a law in South Africa required Indians to carry a registration certificate with fingerprints at all the times. Okay, Gandhi led the Indians in refusing to comply with this discriminatory law and formed the passive resistance to association to organize non-violent defiance. Now since satyagraha was for the very first time, Gandhi used this satyagraha against this registration certificate in 1906 in South Africa. He introduced the concept of satyagraha, that is resisting injustice without violence. Many, including Gandhi, were jailed for defying the law. And what was the outcome? The campaign exposed the injustice of the South African government. Eventually, a compromise settlement was reached there. Now, again, he will have a campaign against the restriction on the Indian migration. Okay, what was that? So, the movement was expanded to protest against a new law restricting Indians to migrate. But Indians defied this by crossing provincial boundaries without licenses, and many participants were arrested and jailed for this defiance. Then there was again a poll tax. What was this poll tax? Poll tax was a tax which was asked from the Indians. Okay, this was imposed on all ex-indentured Indians who earned less than 10 shillings a month, and there was a campaign that demanded abolition of the poll tax, widening supporting among the poor Indians at that time. Now there was this Supreme Court marriage ruling also that happened there in South Africa. What was that? It declared that the non-Christian marriages were invalid, like the marriages of Hindu, Muslim, Parsis were illegal, and the children born from such marriages were also considered illegitimate, so they were not given their rights. Now these Indians viewed the ruling as an insult of the honor of women, bringing many women into the movement. Okay, so this was something that was also used by the Indians and Gandhi to fight against the government. And there was this protest against the Transvaal Immigration Act. What was that? Indians defied the act by illegally migrating from Natal to Transvaal, and many were arrested and jailed by the government. Now support actions, if you see, miners and plantation workers launched a lightning strike. In India, Gopal Krishna Gokhale toured the country to mobilize public opinion in support of South African Indians, and Lord Haddingay, who was the Viceroy of India, condemned the repression and demanded an impartial inquiry into it. This is here, you can see Gandhi in this dresses, and this is the Transvaal which we are talking about in South Africa. Okay, this is something that where Gandhi built himself, preparing himself for the bigger war that he was going to fight in India. Now there was this compromise solution after negotiations which involved Gandhi, Lord Haddingay, C.F. Andrews and General Smart's. A settlement was reached, concession by the South African government, and there was this abolition of the poll tax on the ex-indentured Indians, recognition of Indian marriages solemnized according to their own titles and rights, end to compulsory registration certificates, and assurance to deal with an Indian immigration sympathetically. So all these things that were there, will see that the South African government had to bend down in front of Gandhi. And there was this Tolstoy farm also started by Gandhi, so we should also know about that. There were two farms that were started by him. One was the Phoenix settlement in 1904, that was in Natal. It was inspired by John Ruskin's unto this last, and promoted simple living, manual labor and dignity of human beings. But the more famous one was started in 1910 by Gandhi, that was known as the Tolstoy farm, founded by Gandhi and Herman Kallenbach. It was named after Russian thinker Leo Tolstoy and served as a residential settlement for the satyagrahi families and an educational experiment back then. So it also emphasized on few things like the co-education for boys and girls, combination of vocational training and manual labor like cooking, carpentry, sandal making. It is something which will be continued by Gandhi in India also. For an example, Sabarmati Ashram was there. Manual work seen as essential for social, moral and psychological well-being, that was done there. And this is the Tolstoy farm that you can see. The weak became strong on Tolstoy farm, and labor proved to be a tonic for all. Guys, please remember this quote. It can be asked in the examination, so you should know that it was said by Gandhi that the weak became strong on Tolstoy farm and labor proved to be a tonic for all. So these are the peaks that we see. Gandhi did remarkable work in South Africa. In the next class, we will see about Gandhi in India and about his works over here. Going to see some of the questions which can be important for you in the examination perspective. Once again, I'll repeat. If you want the PDF of this classes for free, you can join our Telegram channel. And also, if you have any question regarding your preparation, you can ask us for free. You can call on these numbers given below and ask any of the educator, including me or Deepika ma'am or anyone. Let's see this question. Consider the following statement regarding Gandhi's stay in South Africa. Okay. Gandhi first went to South Africa in connection with a legal case in 1893. Yes, that was related to Dada Abdullah. The Natal Indian Congress was founded by Gandhi in South Africa. That's also true. The Phoenix settlement was set up by Gandhi near Durban. That's also true. And the Tolstoy farm was established by Gandhi in Johannesburg, collaboration with Herman Kallenbach. So all of these appears to be true, and you can see the explanation by pausing the video. Let's get going. The next question, the term satyagraha was first used by Gandhi during which of the following movements in South Africa? Well, it was protest against Asiatic Registration Act in 1906. Please remember the date, and that is the correct answer. Next question, which of the following correctly matches Gandhi's early satyagraha movement in India with their year and issue? So Champaran Satyagraha in 1917, Indigo cultivators, Kheda in 1918, and Ahmedabad mill strike in 1918. Yes, so all of these three looks to be correct. Yes, that is correct. And next, which of the following principal strategies were central to Gandhi's idea of satyagraha? Ahimsa, yes. Truth, yes. Passive resistance, no. Civil disobedience, yes. So 3 should not be there. 1, 2 and 4 looks to be the correct answer. Let's see the last question. About the Government of India Act 1990, the introduced the system of dyarchy. Yes, not at the central level, at the provincial level. No, this is not correct. It provided for bicameralism. Yes, I said you for the first time it was introduced. The Governor General retained powers to issue ordinances. Yes, that was also correct. So 2 and 3 is correct, 1 is not correct, and with this we have come to the end. But this can be beginning if you are preparing for UPSC, TSPSC or APPSC guys, for one-on-one live mentorship with Deepika ma'am and with all other educators. You can call on the numbers given below and begin your journey from an aspirant to an administrative officer, because remember, there is always a mentor for every topper. Well guys, keep working hard. Today or tomorrow you will be successful. We'll meet again if you subscribe. Namaskar.